Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Voices for Change 2.0, the mental health podcast that's changing the discussion one voice at a time, featuring guests that will help end the stigma and keep talking mental health. And now, here are your hosts, Rebecca and Joe Lombardo.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Voices for Change 2.0.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in today. We're happy to have you. Man, August is almost over, huh?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's the 22nd day of August in the year of our Lord 2020.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Every time I do that year of our Lord thing, you shake your head.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
It cracks me up.
Yeah.
So this is a particularly exciting weekend if you're a nerd, such as myself. So as you guys know, with all of the fun and hijinks that we've experienced this year with COVID-19, you know, things have gotten canceled left and right. Okay. You name it, it's been canceled or brought back as some kind of weird
rendition of itself.
Exactly. So this year, an event that is near and dear to my heart is that's been canceled is San Diego Comic-Con. That's kind of a bummer because a lot of different projects, movies, TV shows, you name it, get announced, get shown. It's a nerd free for all. It's, you know, if you're a fanboy, you're a comic book geek, what have you, it's like the be all end all. And, you know, regrettably, I have not yet been there, but it is my goal to one day before we die to actually go. That said, there is, starting today at 1 p.m. Eastern, for...
You got just enough time to listen to us
and then switch over.
There.
Yeah. DC Comics is doing something called DC Fandom, which is a virtual entertainment and comic book convention of sorts. The actual website is just dcfandom.com. So you can go there and, you know, watch everything, and it's for free. Like I said, it starts at it lasts for 24 hours, and it's really cool. You know, they're going to have so many different things featured. They're going to show a legit teaser for Zack Snyder's version of Justice League that's going to come out next year on HBO Max, which I'm excited for. I can't wait for that because, you know, I mean, Justice League as it was, the Joss Whedon version, it was okay. You know, I'm able to sit through it. I liked it. Yeah, Beck liked it. I was able to sit through it and watch it, but it lacked. And so I'm really excited to see Zack Snyder's finished version of it because I really liked Batman vs. Superman. I liked Man of Steel. The other stuff that he's done in that universe, you know, I really like his vision for it. So I'm excited to see that. They're also going to have a trailer, I believe they're going to have a trailer anyway, for James Gunn's Suicide Squad sequel called The Suicide Squad. And that's exciting because James Gunn, for those of you who don't know, directed Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. He's an incredible director. Should be a really good movie. They're also going to feature the Robert Pattinson Batman movie. They're going to be talking about that. It'd be really awesome if they show a trailer, but I don't think that, you know, the filming got kind of held up again because of COVID, so they're supposed to actually resume filming next month. But that's still pretty exciting. You know, and then they're going to talk about, you know, video games and various DC television properties, comic books, you name it. So it's a total geek fest. Should be really, really exciting all the way around. And if you are inclined to think that way and enjoy that kind of thing, I encourage you to check it out. I plan on spending some time watching it at some point today. So
yeah,
so it should be pretty cool.
So,
I'm going to subject my back to it.
Yeah, well, I'll watch some of it, but I'm not going to sit there and watch every minute of it with you.
Yes, dear. And then the other thing going on tomorrow night is WWE SummerSlam, which is like their WrestleMania for the summer.
And a lot of you know that we are really big wrestling fans. We've had Mauro Ranallo and Diamond Dallas Page both on the show,
yep,
which were both really exciting shows for us.
Yes.
And it's a little bit sad, though, for me right now, because I don't think I've watched Raw, on time at 8 p.m. on a Monday in more than a year.
Yeah.
Because even before they stopped being able to have audiences, the product they were turning out just wasn't up to standards for me.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff that I found really annoying that I couldn't seem to tolerate, and they're starting to do that kind of thing again now. And it's hard because, I am such a fan and I do know a lot about wrestling, but, if it's just garbage and it's just not entertaining to watch, I can't waste my time with it.
Yeah, and that's not to say that there haven't been some good matches
over
the past
been.
year. There have been. We've seen some excellent matches, but
Drew McIntyre is fantastic.
Yes.
I'm so impressed with him. The first time around, he had this badass entrance music that got me so pumped up every time he came out. And then he would kind of get in the ring and it would sort of fall flat.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't, as up to par as they were trying to say he was.
Yeah. So
I'm glad he came back because...
Yeah, he had a chance to work out all of that stuff that he needed to work out.
Right.
He got the experience that he needed. So we're excited for that. He's currently the WWE champion, so he's going to have a good match tomorrow night against Randy Orton, and that should be a good watch. Another good watch should be The Fiend Bray Wyatt against Braun Strowman. I know if you're not into wrestling, your eyes are probably glazing over right now, and I apologize for that. But yeah,
that'll
just
be the last thing we talk about.
Yeah, it's all in all, there's going to be a lot of matches tomorrow night, and it should be, at least for part of the night anyway, it should be an entertaining watch. So if you have WWE Network, you get it for free. Otherwise, you have to pay the exorbitant pay-per-view price.
I think if you're, I'm not 100% sure, but they've been doing this for all the other shows, that if you're a new subscriber, then you get this pay-per-view for free. So check into WWE Network because you could possibly see it for free completely. Like we pay a monthly fee for the WWE Network. It's minimal.
But it's worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
So, okay, that's enough blah blah blah. So let's get on to the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So our guest today is an author, a podcaster, and a mental health advocate. It's also his second time on our show, and we're very happy to have him back to talk about what he's working on right now. So please give a hearty for Mr. J. Chirino.
I'm clapping myself over here, yeah. Good morning, guys. Good to talk to you again.
Good to have you back, sir. How you been?
Same as everybody else, I guess. But I got to tell you, Joe, that I was just listening to you, and I do have to agree with you that Justice League had so much potential, right? I was expecting so much out of it, and it was good enough, but not good enough, if you know what I mean, right? Like it left you kind of, it's good, but I want a little more out of it, So I'm excited as you are to see what they do next.
Yeah, there was just a little bit too much cheese in it.
Correct.
And when you go from how serious Batman vs. Superman was and how serious Man of Steel was, I get the DC execs were kind of freaked out because they look at the success of the Marvel universe, and because I have yet to see a dud for Marvel. Personally,
they got that combination down. I mean, they have the secret down packed at Marvel, and it's something that DC I don't think has figured out yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I think if they had let Zach do what Zach does, it's funny because when Batman vs. Superman came out, it was bagged on, it was panned. You see the memes online of sad Affleck finding out that the movie hadn't performed, but a few years removed from it, and people rave about it, and especially his performance as Batman. And now I think the people appreciate what Zach did with that movie, and that's why they were so much pushing for his version of Justice League.
I agree, and I like Batman versus Superman from the very beginning. I think that it happens every time there's a new Batman. I don't know if you've noticed, people always hate on it. And they say that it's not the same as Michael Keaton, but I think so far every actor has brought its own spice into it, and performed it in a way that it's different and refreshing. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think Ben Affleck did a fine job. Batman is like my ultimate superhero to me because it's all I knew when I was a kid, and watching the cartoons, Batman was this very serious, brooding guy, that had, a lot of issues, and he kind of took those issues out on the bad guys, and I think Affleck did a good job portraying that, and I enjoy Batman versus Superman a lot. It had its flaws. But overall, it was a great movie, and now looking forward to Robert Pattinson. Oh man, that Batmobile! Have you seen the pictures of the Batmobile?
Yeah, it looks pretty sweet.
Man,
I gotta say, I think he's gonna do a good job with it. He has that right combination of brooding and chiseled chin.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not a big Twilight fan, but it is what it is. I think he's going to do great.
Yeah. Funny that you mentioned that because that's what we were watching yesterday.
Oh, really? Does it still hold up? Because I saw it in the beginning, but
it holds up for me. I mean, I'm not like one of those 40-year-old moms that has like that I'm on Team Jacob or Team Edward or whatever. I'm not. Can't fit me into that. I am 40 something, but you can't fit me into the mom thing. But I watched all 4 of the movies yesterday just to have 5 all 5 movies yesterday, just to have something else to do with my time because it's a long story. I struggle with watching something and then repeatedly watching it over and over and over again for months on end.
Well, I do the same thing.
It's comforting to me, and it's not. There's no surprises. I know what I'm gonna get, and I watch stuff like Orange Is the New Black, which is different every episode of the season, and you don't really. It's not something that you memorize.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
I
think we watched it enough now that I've certainly memorized it.
Well, I don't. There's some episodes where I could say that I have some memorization going, but a lot of them I can't sit there and say, okay, this is going to happen next for sure.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like that. But I remember some of the lines or whatever. But you know, so I get stuck in that kind of rut where I'm just sort of watching the same thing over and over again. And you know, last year around this time it was The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm watching that now. Oh my God, what a great show! I read both books, and
you read
the
both
show
books?
The Testament is the second one that came out not too long ago. It's not as good as the first book. I think the first book is absolutely genius. But it's still a great read for sure. And the show holds up.
Yeah.
You know, the show holds up to the books. But it's
so
funny that
you
say that. For sure. But it's so funny that you say that, Rebecca, because when I was going through, you know, that like the hardest times in my life with the depression, and I didn't know what was wrong with me and all that stuff, I became obsessed with the Big Bang Theory. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that show. And I would, to me, like my comfort was to rewatch all the shows. I had all the seasons on DVD. And my wife at the time would be like, "Why are you watching this again? It's like the 20th time," you know. But I felt the same way. Like it was comforting to me because there were no surprises. I knew what was going on. It was funny and refreshing enough to where I enjoyed it every time. And it was almost like I was becoming part of the show, you know, like I was getting out of my situation and putting myself on with these characters. And knowing what was already going on, it was like I was creating my own destiny. If that even makes any sense. Sorry if that doesn't make any sense to some people.
No, it does.
You know, and I've watched the first like 4 seasons, which were the ones where I was feeling at my worst. I would say 100 times to be a low number, to be honest with you. So I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, you're definitely not the only one. You know, Beck and by osmosis me, we've spent the better part of a couple of years rewatching a couple of different shows, and it's completely a comfort thing. You're able to detach from all the ugliness that is going on and surrounding us, especially this year. And, you know, that's, you know, it's people that aren't stuck in that don't understand it. But, you know,
I found this a lot more common than I thought it was. Like, I really thought I was on an island by myself with the whole thing. But when I've mentioned it on Twitter, I've had a lot of people come forward and say, "Oh, yeah, I do that too with this, that, and the other thing." And it's definitely it's more common.
Yeah, it's a common coping mechanism, which is, you know, it's a good thing. You know, it's a good thing. You know, sometimes it's good to be able to just come home and detach and throw on, you know, whatever your current old reliable is, and just unplug from life.
There are days
sometimes
where it's frustrating, though.
Yeah.
You know, where you're kind of sitting there like, all right, I should be able to watch something else. Something else should interest me at this point, and you just can't seem to turn the channel.
Yeah.
So I've been through that for a while.
Yeah, and I think it's probably the same coping mechanism as maybe alcohol and drugs, right? Like, you know, some people turn into those. I mean, I did myself. And you know that, you know, you're going to escape for a while, you know, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for cessation of the anxiety and cessation of the pain, and you know that these chemicals in your brain are gonna be able to do that at least for a little while. And you need it so desperately that you don't care about the consequences the next day. You just want to get rid of the pain today. And And I think, this is a milder form of that when you know that when you lock into something that you're familiar with and that it brings you joy, your brain somehow is going to generate those same chemicals and, make you forget for a little while what's really going on in the world. And I agree with you. I think it's a lot better to watch a TV show 100 times and to find other coping mechanisms.
Right.
But I think the chemical structure, maybe the things that happen in your brain when you're doing it, are probably very similar to one another.
Yeah. I would go along with that.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump into our questions now. Now that we're 20 minutes into our show. How's that sound, Jay?
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
Cool. All right. So for those of our listeners that are not familiar with your story, would you give us a little background as to where your mental health journey began?
It began a long time ago. I was 8 years old the first time I really got kicked in the face by depression. I was going through a tough time in school and, getting bullied, all that stuff. I was an only child, didn't know what was really going on. And one day I just woke up and I was like, I can't even move. Like, I can't do this. And, of course, my parents were like, what are you talking about? And I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know what it was. All I knew was the sadness that I felt overtook everything else. And I was in bed for probably like 3 weeks. I had to get taken out of school, all that stuff. And after that, I kind of got back to normal, but it always kind of stuck with me, And then as a teenager, we came to the United States. It was a humongous change for us. That gloom was kind of always in the back of my head, even though I couldn't, I didn't really tell anyone. And then around 16, 17 years old, I discovered alcohol, and I was like, wow, so this is why people drink. It takes all the anxiety away. And obviously I got a problem with that for many years, got married a couple of times, got divorced, until finally I just kind of broke down for a while and, my life completely fell apart with addiction and mental health problems and depression. And, it came to a point where I was you never know what your bottom is, right, until you reach it. But I felt like I was at the bottom. And and I had to make a decision. I'm going to either get better or I'm going to die. And it was when I made that decision to get better and to really research and study what was wrong with me and how to get better, that I started slowly getting better. Not to say that the depression and the anxiety are not there. I think that will always be there, but you just learn how to manage it better. So, I went, had a lot of therapy. I was in the hospital for a while. And all those experiences led me to discover that we don't talk enough about mental health. We, as a society, seem to just sweep it under the rug, and there's so many people struggling out there, and they can't even talk about it because it's not the norm. You're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to say, I don't feel well, and it's not because my body hurts, but it's because my mind hurts. So I wrote my first book, The Flawed Ones, in regards to that and in regards to some of the greatest people I've ever met that have mental health problems, but it didn't take away who they were as human beings, and it didn't take away the goodness out of their hearts. And that's when I started, understanding the stigma of mental illness and understanding the taboo that surrounds mental illness, and I just wanted to do a little bit to try to, take away some of that stigma, and here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, that's And you make a really good point, and it made me think of something too, and that's that, you know, some of us, you know, there is that taboo of talking about it, and you don't want to talk about it, or you don't want to show your weakness or whatever. A danger that I've seen is, because obviously we talk about it, right? You talk about it, Beck and I talk about it, or everybody that we've had on the show talks about it. When one of us is struggling, thinking to ourselves, well, if I say something, it's going to raise all these red flags. People are going to freak out, this and that. I already know what I'm dealing with, and I know what I need to do to get better, so I'm going to keep it to myself and not say anything. I've actually, personally speaking, I've done that a few times where I've had days where I might be struggling, but I think to myself, well, I don't want to say anything, you know. I don't want to go through all the, you know, all the steps that go with turning this thought around, you know, which can sound scary, you know, and it is, you know, but eventually, I know for me personally, I'm able to work through it and get past what I might be experiencing in that moment in time. Sometimes we can't, you know, and sometimes those are the times when you seek out, you know, a friend, a loved one, a significant other, a doctor, a therapist, and get it off your chest, you know.
Absolutely.
Being able to do that, you know. But yeah, when it's a situation like us where, you know, we do talk about it all the time, you know everything that goes along with that conversation. So, you know.
Absolutely. And I think this, you know, 2020 is a perfect representation of, you know, us as a society and as a culture trying to ignore or hide the mental repercussions of what we're going through. You know, if you think about it, I don't know about you guys may be a little more involved, but in all this time, in all these months, I have maybe read one article that has to do with the mental health repercussions of what we're going through. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, whether we should be wearing masks or not, which is obviously a political thing, and, you know, I don't listen to that. You know, you got to use your common sense and obviously know what's better for you. But we don't talk about what people are going through right now, stuck in their homes, losing their jobs, not knowing what the future of the country is, not knowing what's really going on, right? Because there's so much information out there, so much conflict that even I sometimes go, do I really know what the heck is happening here? You know, and it has we know it has a humongous toll on people's mental health and mental well-being, and yet it's something that I rarely hear anyone talking about.
Yeah, it hasn't been. I mean, it's been talked about in our circles, but beyond that, you know, you throw on, you know, the nightly news, or you throw on whatever press conference is going on for that day concerning COVID, and the mental health aspect of it, not only the effect it's having on those of us that are afflicted, but people that are quote unquote normal are now seeing this impact to them as well, and yet you're not hearing about it. You know, it's not, you know, when it is discussed, it's touched on briefly, and then they move right along to the next thing. And, you know, being able to help these people realize it's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to talk about what you're going through. That's an important message to get through, especially to men. Traditionally, men have a harder time talking about their feelings and what they're going through than women do, and that's not to say that women don't have a hard time with it. They do. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, that said, go ahead, Jay.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, it has to be really tough. It's tough for us that have been suffering for a while to talk about it and to discover that we can talk about it. So imagine how tough it must be to someone that's never experienced it to the level that they might be experiencing it now, to actually talk about it and to say, I may have a problem here. And that just popped in my head, like, how tough it is for me, for example, that have been struggling with this my entire life, to actually open up at almost 30 years of age and say, I need help. So yeah, we it's sad that it's not being talked about enough anymore, and I think that it's up to us, to try to make a difference in that area and to really let people know that it's okay, that it's okay to talk about it, that it's okay to seek help, and that it's okay to feel that way when we're going through the mess that we're going right now, and the uncertainty is so huge. So yeah, that just popped in my head. Sorry.
No problem.
Hashtag keep talking mental health.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, on that note, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
We'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to be listening to Wanderer by Matt Stern. Stay tuned, you guys, and we'll see you after this.
Hey, wanderer, you say I'm home to you. Hey, wanderer, you think I'll wait for you? Well, I don't know if that's true. Hey, white blue eyes, staring at the sunshine. Just another prodigal son, destined to leave it all behind. He'll leave you in the dark, while he's getting lost in the light. Hey, ocean child, you're calling away. And if you reach the sky, then on your way back down, you may look for me, but I may not be around. Hey, lover boy, even if every word you say is true, hey, wanderer, even if I have grown attached to you, thing is, baby, I'm a wanderer too.
I guess the song's over. Welcome back to Voices for Change 2.0. I'm Joe. She's Rebecca. I'm embarrassed.
You're shocked?
She's shocked. I'm embarrassed. And hi. We're on the line with the lovely and talented Mr. Jay Chirino.
Hello.
How's it going, sir? Hello.
It's Saturday morning. It's raining outside. You know, it's a perfect time. Oh yeah, it's been raining every day. Usually, you know, when I get out of work, around 5:30 in the afternoon, and it never fails. It's a beautiful day, sunny outside. The birds are singing, and then at 5:25, as I am walking towards my car, you know. The rain starts pouring down like if God just dropped a bucket on my head. And and yeah, it's a good time. You know, I don't have to take showers when I get home. I'm already fairly clean. and on the weekends, so that's during the weekdays. On the weekends, when I want to do something in the morning time, because hey, I don't have to go anywhere. Florida goes, no, it's water time, and it starts raining very early in the morning. So it's a good time to live in this state.
There's a morning show here, and I listen to it every day, and it's called Dave and Chuck the Freak, and they've actually got it down in Florida. I think it's in Tampa. I forget where else they have it. And one of the segments they have is called "Man, Florida's messed up," and they'll highlight something that has happened that day, you know, with Florida. You know, some guy steals something and hijinks ensue and whatnot, and it's funny as all get out. But yeah, without fail, every day they've got something to say about you guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I play this little game to where I'm reading the news, and whenever I see something out of the norm or something, you know, just weird, I go, it's Florida, right? Like I'm in my head, I'm like, that has to be Florida, and then I look at the news and I'm like, yep, confirmed.
Yeah, we all got it, but for some reason you guys got it worse. So
we're the best.
You've been a writer most of your life. Where does your passion for writing come from?
You know, since I was very little, I remember that my mom had an old typewriter in the house, and I was mesmerized with the way that the clickety sound of the typewriter. You know, it was just something that always, you know, caught my attention. So I would pretend to write books on it, and I did actually sometimes write little short stories and stuff like that, and they kind of took me away from, kind of like we were talking about a little earlier about the TV shows. Writing a story for me when I was young took me away from my reality and into that story itself. And it was exciting, you know. It was kind of like going on a journey myself. And I think that as I grew older, that also became a coping mechanism. I remember that when I was in high school and I was going through the first girl trouble, you might call it, you know, of the teenage years, I would write a lot of poetry. I would write a lot of little short stories. I would write a lot of letters. I remember being in math class in probably 9th or 10th grade, and my teacher yelling at me because I was writing poetry under the desk in math class. And it was the only thing at that time that made me really escape for a little bit. So I think that a coping mechanism like that to me was always there. And as I grew older, I just, I started to really find a passion for it. And the more I read, the more books I read, the more passionate I became about the written word. And, it just took off from there.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, with me with the guitar playing and, when you get inspired to write something, it's like a lightning bolt out of the blue. It just hits you, bam, and you can't fight it. You have to act on it. In your case, you're writing it down. In my case, maybe I'm recording it, or trying to write out the sheet music to it or something. But it's one of those things where you have to act on it right then and there.
Yeah. Have you guys ever read the book The War of Art?
No.
Mm-mm.
It was by a very famous writer that wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance. I don't remember his name now.
Okay.
But it's a very short book. I highly recommend you, since you guys are creative people, to read it. Because in the book he explains how the creative process is almost like a muse, like an entity within itself. And when that entity uses you to create something, the most important thing that you can do is to get out of the way and let it do its thing through you. And when you were talking about the music, that's the way it feels. It feels like you got to regurgitate something that's inside of you. You don't really know what it is yet, but you have to either make it into music, put it into paper, and just create something that's not really coming from within you. It feels like it's coming from another place. You're just being used almost like a tool, like a bridge, to let that out and create it. So that's very cool that you guys feel the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that with lyrics. I've done that with, music that I've written and had some really, really good results come from that,
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah.
My mom and dad had a little black typewriter, that little old metal clicky clacky one, and I was obsessed with it. And then eventually my dad moved on to an electric typewriter, and I just was completely obsessed with the sound effects of it. Just the ding.
Wow, that's the best.
Yeah, it was great. So I'm with you there, Jay.
I've considered going on eBay and buying like a vintage typewriter just to have it and just to have fun with it, to be honest. I'll probably end up doing it someday.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
My mom had an electric typewriter that I used to use for, like, when I had to type up a report or something for school. And I'll never forget, this is right before we got our first computer and printer. The ribbon wore out on the typewriter, and the only ribbon we could get our hands on was green. So I'd be turning in these typed out reports, and they'd be in green, and the teacher would just look at me like, "What the hell's the matter with you?"
And those ribbons, I used to wear out my dad's whiteout, and he used to get so mad at me. He'd go to sit down to type out an envelope or something, and the correction part of the tape was all worn out, and he used to get pissed at me.
Hey, Jay, you're yeah, you're working on a new book. What is it called, and what is it about?
So it's a work in progress. So the title is also a work in progress. But again, I started with the same questions that we were just talking about, like what are the consequences mentally and physically of being stuck indoors, of living in a world where, everything involves you being inside. And I kind of came up with this idea of a quarantine that would never end. That for whatever reason you had to be stuck indoors for the rest of your life. And how would that affect the person? What would the changes be? How would the world look like if, you couldn't go outside anymore? And it was just it started with that idea, and then it kind of evolved into a kind of dystopian novel, that it reminds me kind of a little bit like 1984 maybe. It's been really fun to write. I'm probably about 65% of the way there. Hopefully planning on releasing it by, if not end of the year, beginning of next year. But I wanted to mix the fun of it, the fun of maybe a science fiction kind of world, but still tie it to what we're going through now and make people relate to it. And almost as a warning as well of, if we're not careful, this is where we could end up. We've seen some really weird things happen this year that we didn't expect at all. That if you would have told me, like, for example, I went to New York with my son a year and a half ago, and he absolutely loved it. We had a great time. And I was thinking, if somebody would have told me, hey, in a year and a half from now, this is not going to exist anymore, I would have laughed in their faces. This is New York City. What are you talking about? This is the best city in the world, in my opinion. And then here we are, So I kind of wanted to write about that and my fears of where we could end up if we're not careful. And right now, the working title is Quarantine Perpetual. But, it could change. It could change in a few months. But yeah, it's been really fun and scary to write so far. And I'm like, people are either going to love this or hate it because they're so tired of the quarantine issue already. But either way, I felt like I had to write it. And I wanted to also, again, put in there the mental health issues that a person will go through, living a life that we're not meant to live, as human beings. Since the very beginning, we've been roaming the earth, we've been exploring, we've been traveling, we've been discovering new places, and I think that it's against our genetics, basically, to be stuck in one place without being able to get out. So I wanted to explore that a little more as well, and like I said, it's been really fun. So hopefully some people will enjoy it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a really cool
Sounds
subject.
Like a great idea.
Yeah. And it's funny because it kind of, you really speak to something with the being stuck in one place thing. You think about the nomadic tribes of the past that would just, wander and follow their food around and stuff. And then you contrast that with, say, somebody being stuck in prison for 5-10 years, and you've got this finite area that you're able to go in when you're in prison. And, we can speak to that just based on our recent television viewing. But, it's like, like the line in the song, the standing still is hard, trying to stay in one place. And we've shown, people have shown they can't do it,
Absolutely.
Cracks me up when you see, you always see that meme where it shows like a desert island or it shows a big mansion and it says, for $1 million, could you live here without, X, Y, and Z for a year or 6 months or what have you. And everybody's always like, yeah, I can do it. It's like, no, you can't. The pandemic has shown that you can't stay in one spot, So that's just kind of a funny realization on that end.
For sure. We're social, for lack of a better word, we're social animals. Our survival has always depended on being part of a tribe or being part of a group. And I think that, that has carried on with us throughout the years that, You know, in order to survive physically and mentally, we have to be around other people, or at least be able to have the freedom to, you know, to move around when we need to. That's why solitary confinement is such a torture for some inmates, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes what we're going through does feel like solitary confinement. So I agree with you 100%.
Awesome. It's nice to be agreed with. I've been asking all the questions. You ask a question.
All right, I will ask a question.
Okay.
So your first book was called The Flawed Ones. And you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe tell people where they might be able to pick it up?
Absolutely. So the last time I was in the hospital where, you know, I was in a psychiatric unit for, I think it was 4 days. The days all blended together, so I don't really remember. But, you know, that's when I really decided that I didn't want to be in that place anymore. You know, that I either had to get help and get better or die. You know, and I thought that as I was there, I was like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to work on myself. You know, I'm going to take all the feedback that I can from the doctors, and, you know, I'm going to continue on with my therapy after this and go from there. And yet, what really made a bigger impact on me were the people that I was in there with. You know, some people that were very, very sick, some people that had the most unbelievable stories. And when I got out of there, I had two thoughts. I was like, it's so sad that nobody will ever hear, you know, the world will never hear these people's stories and who they were because just of their mental condition. And I immediately said, I have to write this. I have to write it down, not only about my experience, but about them, you know, and about how wonderful some of these people were, even though they were very, very sick, you know. And sometimes we think, oh, if a person has a mental health condition, they're crazy, you know, or they're insane, or whatever other label we want to utilize. But looking deeper into it, their hearts were as pure and as wonderful as any other quote-unquote normal human being. And some people ask me, well, why do you call the books The Flawed Ones then if you know, you're saying that they're not flawed? And as you write the book, I hope you start to realize that when you talk about, or what I mean by the flawed ones is actually humanity in itself, meaning that we're all the same. We all have quirks and differences and maybe flaws here or there, but that doesn't define who we are as human beings, not even if we have a chronic mental health condition. You know, and that was a message that I attempted to relay in the book and tell some of this people's story along with myself. And, you know, it was an amazing project to do and to finish and to have so many people enjoy and hopefully get some benefit out of it. Right now, I can actually, people can actually download the book for free if they go to theflawedones.com. I've been giving it away for free for some time, you know, and they can enjoy it there. If they rather buy a physical copy of the book, they can just go on Amazon and search for The Flawed Ones, and it will be there. But either way, if, you know, they don't have the money to do so and they want to download it for free, they can just go to The Flawed Ones, and it's available.
Cool.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, we are getting low on time, sir, which sucks because we're having an awesome conversation. I know. It just
that
it
did
flies
not feel
by.
like an hour at all.
No, it didn't. You know, well, talking about Batman, we'll do that.
That was the best part.
Yeah. So really quick, give everybody your social media in case they want to reach out to you or, you know, say hi or, you know, ask what you're having for for lunch or something.
Absolutely. I am more than willing to go out to lunch with any stranger that reaches out to me, so please do. At the Flawed Ones on Twitter, at Flawed Ones on Instagram, actually on Facebook. I don't even know. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Again, at the Flawed Ones on Facebook. They can also reach me at my website, jchirino.com. They can email me at j@theflawedones.com, and I'll be happy to reply back. And I'll have at least some coffee with some strangers. That sounds like a lot of fun. When the pandemic is over, not right now, but we can set it up for, maybe next year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's great, sir. Well, we are going to wrap things up. You stay on the line, and everybody else there in Radio Land, you're going to be listening to the song Your Magic by Matt Stern. Thanks for tuning in today.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Have a great weekend.
You are the best thing. You hold my heart inside your hands. Your magic. You make me crazy. Your touch, it makes me lose my head. It's tragic. It's all over. That's what you said. It's all finished. Gonna rain band. Can tell your friends. They can leave when they want to. 'Cause this feeling has gone to your head. Nobody but me sees you like I see you. Nobody can see you like I do. Let me hold you. I can try to help. Can sit here by you. When you're overwhelmed, can remind you that you're worth so much more. When you feel like you're losing control, and nobody but me sees like I see you. Nobody can see you like I do. Yeah. So softly, down a little closer. You can feel safety. I'll show you where, so gently. You are the best thing. You hold my heart inside your hands. Your magic, magic. You make me crazy. Your touch, it makes me lose my head. It's tragic. Magic.